Trudy, do we have any ice?
You son of a bitch.
Anyway, sometime in the summer of 48. No, 1932. No, 1939.
But when I say I want the moon, I expect the moon.
Because he was caught with chewing gum on his pubis.
World handed to us on a plate, and then you swing in on a chandelier, drop your pants, and crap on it.
You're a very, very gifted storyteller.
I killed my CO.
You have lost your mind!
The hell are you supposed to be?
Because Scouts honor.
This is my business.
I mean business!
Hello and welcome to Blowing Smoke, the officially unofficial Mad Men podcast, where we dive into each and every episode of one of the very greatest pieces of televisual storytelling ever. So sit back, relax, and smoke them if you got them, because this right here is the Cure for the Common podcast. We're your co-host, Kyle Levi Huffman. I'm Kyle.
I'm Levi.
I know it's been a while since you've heard us. Welcome back. We've been a little busy recently.
Somebody got married, so...
Somebody.
Oh, yeah, well, I said that as Harry Crane kissed the secretary on the menu
on
screen.
the main menu. Season 1, Disc 3 heads, no.
Yeah, because remember that Season 6 commentaries got lost, so
maybe we need to do
keeping up with that.
I think we need to do an investigation when we get there, like a whole episode investigation of
we need to call some people
what
up.
happened. Like, we'll reach out to Matt and
No, I'm serious. We might need to do that. Call up Lionsgate. Call somebody now
and say like, hey, listen, we are willing to be the official commentaries. If you get all the collect all the DVDs or Blu-rays, we'll record. We'll do our best, and then you can make money off of our observations. Just
what you're saying? Do all of it again, or
no? Like when we get to season 6, just like do those commentaries and then like gift them to them. Say, hey, by the way,
just for that season.
Since you can't,
I thought you were saying for all.
Well,
the whole show.
I mean, if they want to, have at it.
Well, they need to put out a different.
We haven't truck.
Maybe this is the time to talk about this. But they have a really terrible set that they put out, and for one reason, you can't get the discs out of the sleeves. Mm-hmm. That's why we're watching.
This is actually a common
your
thing with
old ones that you gave me.
This is actually a common problem with a lot of other TV shows too. Yeah. Like the Sopranos one is better than that. Yeah, but it's also cumbersome. Like
but it just has them in the Blu-ray things. I mean, it's
not
too bad,
I'm just saying it just doesn't. Right. I don't think it looks good visually.
Right. Well, it's like I just sold it, but that Godzilla Criterion collection set, the Showa one, which is cool, but like you just moved out.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of like, are we going to watch this? Like, no. Yeah. So sell it. But anyway, like on that, you had the, it looked good. I mean, it was like a book, but then, and this wasn't hard to get out, but then it was like just in these sleeves in the book itself. And it's kind of like in the actual page of the quote book. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of like, no.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this going, what the heck are they talking about? Like, I have no idea. Well, that's your problem. I will say though, I do love the like wraparound cover of the Mad Men set. It's those Polaroid pictures of everybody.
Right.
Really
the set is great. It's just not
user friendly.
Well, then half of it's taken up by the tumbler glasses they gave with it, and it's just like we're not going to use that because I'm not an alcoholic. So.
Also, like it's a whole other thing. But the '60s Batman show has this kind of cumbersome.
That's pretty bad
TV,
too. Yeah.
Box and like the discs themselves are fairly easy to get out, but then it's like, you get these trading cards, which is kind of cool. But then the George Barrett car, like car, and it's like, okay, anyways.
But yeah, I don't know what happened to just having things work.
I think honestly, like the Blu-ray DVD market has actually recovered in recent years because it's become more of a collector's.
Right.
It's still not as good as it was years ago when everybody was buying discs, but it's gotten better over the last few years because they figure out how to market them to collectors and all that. And they're trying to be They're like marketing to people who collect this stuff. So,
but that's another thing too is you collect things to be used.
Right.
I don't collect them to look at.
Well, I
do,
definitely
but,
think
like,
we do. We collect things to be used. There's other people that's like, no, I want to sit on a shelf forever.
Well, now, if it's like a baseball card, then sure, you're not going to get the baseball card out and look at it every day. I mean, like, but with Blu-rays, it's like it has a practical purpose, though. It's the same thing with cars. I don't understand why people get cars and then they don't drive them. It's like, why would you do that?
Rich people
stuff doesn't make any sense. Anyway, speaking of rich people stuff,
Mad Men.
Mad Men.
Season 1.
So, Disc 3, Episode 10?
No, 11.
11?
11, yeah.
It's funny because I keep forgetting that we're not all the way there yet, exactly. As
With
far
season
as,
1?
like, yeah.
Yeah.
We're it's notable to say this is, Episode 11, Indian Summer. The only episode on, speaking of summer, rich summer, the only episode on, I know we're going to keep referring to Harry kissing on the menu here, but...
well, we actually see the moment next episode. We really want to highlight it.
Oh, my God. Like, and there's going to be the whole thing where he's, like, staying at the... Because he admitted to his wife.
Richard Nixon will not be the only loser of that episode.
Right. Of course. Should we do that? Actually, now I'm thinking, I don't think we should, but... because it just wouldn't make sense, because we want to do losers that are characters. But it would be funny if, like, who lost? Well, I guess Kennedy lost that one episode.
Oh, by the way.
But it's like, because he kind of died,
By the way, like, I think that we have not made an episode since the Nixon Foundation, which is becoming a recurring subplot on the show, my watching of them, made like a reel where they had Don Draper in the reel, and they were talking about, like, it had some... voiceover from Nixon is like, a lot of people, they're really concerned with flash and style, and it was showing Don Draper like as a counterpoint to what
it's like he was a Nixonian man.
You were literally like
well, also they were the group that once Bill Murray came on the Joe Rogan show and said that
we have talked about that on here.
Did we talk about it? Okay, and then they were like, yeah, well then maybe
they reshared
it. What? Like,
yeah,
that's so stupid. Like, no matter what you say about Nixon, even they would, I would think, have to admit that that's all.
Well, I was actually talking about this with my wife the other day. Funny enough, I'm the one who got married, by the way.
Yeah, what I mean.
Levi gave a very beautiful best man speech. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But like how I have noticed that their party line on Watergate has started to change over the years.
Really?
Where they're like, well, it was a lot, years ago. It was like, well, Pobody's nerfed, like, things happen, it's just like kind of what comes with the territory. Now it's like outright, oh, he didn't really have anything to do with it. Like, it was all these other people, and just kind of not saying conspiracy exactly, but basically tiptoeing towards that.
Well,
as
they're
far
trying
as
to say he got blamed for the whole thing when it was the other people who did it.
Right.
Which the old time answer that we've come with, which I think is the logical one, is to say, well, yeah, but also he's the guy who put those people in the place to do the things that he wanted them to do.
Yeah.
Without needing to have to say what he wanted them to do. I mean, that's just stupid. Anyway.
But they did have a post that was like Nixon aura, and then like all these photos of him with world leaders.
Did you
and
see there was
around,
that tweet that happened recently? That was.
You mean X post?
I actually have some things. I know we said we're going to go through this episode kind of quick, but I actually have some things I want to say about Twitter here in a minute that I haven't said to anybody.
By the way, I'm not referring to it as X. I'm just kidding. It's Twitter forever.
Yeah. Anyway, that's part of the reason of what I'm going to talk about. But on there, that somebody had said, he's the only President Nixon I can imagine meeting aliens with his voice and being like, let me actually see if I can find that. Hang on, and I'll
search
read
like
it.
Nixon aliens,
and then there's probably gonna have all this stuff come up that's like pictures of him with
men.
aliens.
Yeah.
You have little green men.
Beavis and Butthead. Nixon watching that.
Yeah. Oh, it was our old friend Ben Crew, friend of the pod, who does all the Mad Men stuff.
Who doesn't know we exist.
Right,
we know he does.
Right.
I'm a fan. I'm not trying to dismiss.
There's actually more that I haven't read here, below that. So, oddly feel that Nixon would have been in his element with alien first contact. That's hilarious in itself. It's easier for me to visualize him shaking a tentacle and saying, it is honor to welcome the Zindagarians of Kylar 5, and let me be the first to say gurgling Yale. Than other presidents. Gerald Ford goes to shake hands. This is below that. I haven't read this yet. Gerald Ford goes to shake hands with the alien ambassador, but trips over a tentacle and is immediately absorbed into his gelatinous body. UFO lands directly on the White House lawn. Aliens breezing past a patiently waiting Jimmy Carter to go inside and smoke with Willie Nelson. Wow. Anyway, but yeah,
That gives me an
like,
idea for like, imagine like a sci-fi comedy about, it's like Alien First Contact, where the aliens meet the president or some world leader and they accidentally kill them, and then it's like, oh, and it's like they both retreat, and it's like, what are we going to do now? And then it's like, oh, actually, we didn't really like the president all that much anyways. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, so Indian Summer...
Well, that's what I was going to say about this, is that Indian Summer is the only episode on the Wikipedia page for the first season that doesn't have its own hyperlink to an episode.
Now, I think some of the later seasons don't for every episode, right? Yeah.
But that's just notable to say, this is kind of literally like... This is like the episode in any other show you would see. Because this show becomes, ultimately, I think, and we've talked about this before... very John Cheever-esque, very like slice of life. I just reread The Swimmer recently because I'm going to teach that to my middle schoolers. Wish me luck, and then I'm going to show them the movie.
Great movie too. Yeah.
But to talk about
you loved it.
You loved it.
You got to show that clip.
I did already to them, but and they were very like what. But no, I want to do that for a reason because first of all, I like to try to choose different kinds of things that they're not going to normally read.
Yep.
And I feel like that's a good one to do for metaphor about seasons and the changing of life and the cycle of life, and I want them to read something a little longer, but not like real long,
Right. That's like what, 10-ish pages?
It's like 12 pages,
okay.
Yeah. So it's not like real long. Yeah. But yeah, because we read it in the COVID summer right before we watched the movie, and both of those are good in different ways. But anyway,
COVID summer, that's like if Mad Men was in its 67th season.
So that's what I was gonna say about this show's like a lot of those kind of stories is like, obviously they have characters and they have arcs, but the show is less interested in typical storytelling like cop shows about like technobabble, this must happen, this plot thing. It's less about plot and more about the character and
I know, like to that point, and we might have mentioned this, I think when we were getting to episode 2, that Weiner intentionally, like really early on, wanted to go, it's not like the pitch of the week show because it could have had
it kind of was early on in this season especially,
and then they become very infrequent. I will say usually the seasons end with a big pitch or meeting scene, like not every single season
doesn't end with a pitch, it ends with like
the big duck showdown,
but we're gonna literally be on the floor laughing when we get to that point. Write a prose poem to a potato chip. Just the duck character I'm really looking forward to because he's going to lose so much.
He might win a few.
Maybe. I don't know. Is he going to win the Milk and Honey Root episode, you think? Like, finally giving Pete his due? I don't know. But anyway, my point is that this episode, more than any episode in the show that I can think of, really does feel like we're moving chess pieces to get to this point.
And isn't that true of most prestige TV shows anyways? Like when they get to that penultimate episode of the season.
But I feel like this show doesn't do that as often as it goes along either, though. Like I felt like, and maybe I'm wrong on that, maybe as we watch through it I'll have misremembered that, but I feel like this episode in particular is very like, we have to get Adam to kill himself so that he can send the thing, and Pete goes in and gets it.
And then also we get a bigger Peggy, which she's gaining weight, which eventually she's going to have her child at the end of the season.
And so this just feels like it's the episode of the whole show that's very like, this must happen for this to happen to this. And so...
I feel like, too, the later seasons do a good job of teasing things out throughout the season. You don't even quite know it's all of a sudden it's going to culminate until later.
I've never talked about this, but one of my favorite things in this whole show is season 6 when Dawn has the stuff happen where they're going to be looking into him again, and he tells Pete, hey, I need you to like do me a favor and look into this, like get your friend in the Air Force. Literally the episode's called Favors. I remember one about like, or no, I'm sorry.
It's season 4 where that happened.
That's when that happened. And then later on he said, no, I need you to help me get Sylvia's son out of the Air Force
right.
Or that he could go to the Air Force, or he could get a better
Air National Guard kind of George W. Bush sort of
so
dodging the war
he wouldn't
kind of
have
thing.
to like go. Not like grunts in the thick of it, Marines or Army or any of that. Or even in the regular Air Force, like was bombing everything.
I remember that now. Yeah,
but that he's like, I love those scenes in that because it's just two guys talking in a room and it's like that just feels like a natural progression of, remember what I did for you, you did this for me.
Just all
and
that shared history.
Right, and that's
culminates,
what
yeah.
character is. Like, that's how the show begins to operate on itself, because it set up these characters to be so rich. Whereas early on in the show, it kind of just has to do that. So that's not to say this episode isn't good or even great in its own way. It's just very like, we need this to happen for this to happen to this to happen, you know.
Well, I think too, like, we have genuinely been pretty busy the last so many weeks.
Right.
But I can't help but think there's an unconscious part of us that was like, yeah, but it's like Indian Summer. Like, we know we want to get to Nixon
Like
versus
Rich
Kennedy.
Summer will be dancing on the... Yeah.
And we want to get to the wheel because those are two...
Yes.
1-2 punches of, like,
and,
final episodes
right,
of
and
the
that's,
season.
And that's where I feel like the show's already started in a way of having great episodes like 5G, Red in the Face, Even Long Weekend, LOL.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say what it was.
Yeah.
A friend of ours sent a message that is damning, to say the least. But anyway, we can actually talk about that maybe here in a few minutes, part of what that is when we get to some other stuff here. But yeah, just to say that, like, there's already been great Shoot, the Hobo Code. Yeah, there was a group there of, like, some really great episodes of, like, 5G, Babylon, Red in the Face, Hobo Code, Shoot. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's with Nixon versus Kennedy in the wheel, and then season 2 where it's like, okay, now
that was
we're
coming
really
off of its
the
Emmy
show. Right.
season where
Yes.
it won Best Series.
And
yeah,
really, it's
Won
a
4 in a row.
progression. It's a progression upwards through season 4, and then I think seasons 5 and 6 and 7 all kind of plateau as being maybe not quite as great as season 4, but like pretty much
it's between
consistent.
seasons 4 and 5 where there was that 2-year break
Right.
between 4
And
5.
so I think the later seasons of the show, which are more of my favorite seasons, don't necessarily make them better. I just spent a lot more time with those when they were first on.
Right. Yeah.
That was my Mad Men.
Right.
This Mad Men was the older version that I got caught up on. Not that it isn't great or better, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting more of that stuff, because that's where you have, like I said, those moments of Pete and Don saying, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, and it's like much more organically done, and I feel like that reflects the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, that the storytelling becomes a lot more organic and kind of, well, whatever, you know, and becomes, in a way, an emulation of both the beats and the hippies, but even something beyond that, too, as far as storytelling that's, like, feels new. I don't know. So anyway, that's a lot
well
to say.
said.
But
Indian Summer, Thursday, October 4th, 2007. Peggy is given the opportunity to write copy for a new weight loss device that everyone knows is useless. She finds an interesting use for it. She finds an interesting use for it, however.
Does, yeah.
Afraid of losing the Lucky Strike cigarette account, Burt Cooper gets Roger Sterling to come in for a 1-hour meeting, but he has another attack. Don Draper becomes a partner and takes over for his friend Roger, but some of the admin are sharpening their resumes nonetheless. That sentence is hilariously written. Pete Campbell wants a promotion, but Draper doesn't seem too interested. Pete sneaks into Don's office and takes home a parcel sent by Adam addressed to Don that the mailroom boy comes to deliver. So like you said, a lot of moving chess pieces there.
Right. A lot of moving Don Draper's large chests.
You got 0.68.
That's what I got here, yeah.
Rating. So
it does say this is October
680,000.
also is when it is, so it actually lined up with the date, funny enough.
There's sometimes that happens.
Right.
Then there's other times it's March and you're getting a Christmas episode.
Right,
It's
yeah,
just
it's just like,
yeah.
Well, they started to do that when they did the show earlier in the year. It used to be, I think season 5 onward, it was always like April, May, which I think is a great time to have that show on, personally.
I feel like that was very frequently when I remember it.
Right,
being
but as
on.
far as like season 4 and before that, I think it was later in the year, like summer going into fall.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it doesn't matter. But, it is funny how that goes, isn't it? You know, you have like, sometimes things line up, sometimes they don't. But yeah, as far as the other stuff, it does mention Lee Garner Sr. makes a reappearance in Junior.
All right, yeah.
So yeah, obviously that didn't mention about, this is the episode where we kind of talked about already at the beginning, Adam Whitman commits suicide, and sends that box of all the pictures.
Yeah, I feel like we probably
to-
talked about that as a foregone conclusion back when
Right.
it happened. And I, you know, me personally, I think when I was first watching this, I had genuinely no
Right.
expectation that this
Yeah.
character would necessarily
even come back in the show.
And he
Yeah.
even comes back beyond this, of course.
Yeah.
And I think it was just one.
He was
other-
in the Phantom, but I feel like
well,
he's
was
been in
he
flashbacks
was he in the-
also.
Yeah,
but-
I was gonna say
like as a
so,
child.
right,
but-
yeah,
yeah.
right, yeah, because
Yeah.
the next episode's got a lot of flashbacks, but that's when he was been younger.
Yeah, but I'm
so-
saying even throughout the show,
Yeah.
there's moments. But yeah, no, I think the primary one's when he's in the Phantom in the
Yeah.
end of season 5. But yeah, I mean, mostly that's it. But I mean, yeah, it's a pretty big shocking way to start it. But obviously, that the moving pieces of fate
Yeah.
that would lead him to say, "All right, I'm going to send him that," and then Pete gets a hold of it, and then what all that leads to, and of course that'll be the next episode. And I mean, the next episode is literally, we keep seeing scenes from it here,
Yeah.
but a genius, maybe one of the best
Conception.
penultimate episodes of any show I've ever seen, even compared to this show. I think is more, because like I was saying earlier, I think this show, as it goes along, sometimes the penultimate episodes are more geared into the whole story, and it doesn't feel as much like this is a penultimate episode.
Mm-hmm.
These things must happen. Like this one feels a lot more distinct in that way, but I think it's a great
Yeah.
way to use the metaphor of those two against each other, Nix and Kenny. I mean, there's that one moment where it's literally that and the TV, and it's like almost too obvious, but it's a great moment. Kind of like the ending of All Quiet on the President's Men. All the President's Men. Sorry, I teach All Quiet on Western Front, so whenever I start to say all this, and then you just finished All the King's Men.
Right.
So,
Great
anyway.
book.
But yeah, so
Certain aspects of it remind me of Mad Men, actually.
yeah.
Speaking of books, do we want to go ahead and talk about?
So we'll get
pretty good
back
piece
to the
of
episode
business
in here in a minute. Yeah, but all right. Can I tell the story of how I found out about this? Actually,
yeah, okay.
And
Yeah,
we'll
go
get into it.
ahead.
I won't take forever on this.
Okay.
I wake up a couple weeks ago. I guess it's been now. Really tired. Got a headache.
Yeah.
Kyle walks in the room.
It was early in the morning.
Yeah, it was like 5:15.
Yeah.
And I get up about 5, every day anyway. But you walk in there, you're like, hey, so apparently Thomas Pynchon's like writing a new book and it's coming out in October. And
Yeah.
I was like,
So you were like, I remember seeing your face.
Yeah.
You were like, oh, what?
yeah,
Like,
and I was like, huh? Didn't hit me until I was in the shower. Almost slipped from being like,
yeah,
oh my god.
Yeah.
Called Shadow Ticket. Now, do you want to read what it's
Yeah,
about?
I'll read
Okay.
about it here. Milwaukee, 1932.
I'm like, immediately, yes.
The Great
Anyway.
Depression going full blast, repeal of prohibition just around the corner, Al Capone in the federal pen, the private investigation business shifting from labor management relations to the more domestic kind. Hicks McTaggart, a one-time strikebreaker turned private eye, knows he's found job security until he gets sent out what should be a routine case, locating and bringing back the heiress of a Wisconsin cheese fortune who's taken a mind to go wandering. Before he knows it, he's been shanghaied onto a transatlantic liner, ending up eventually in Hungary, where there's no shoreline, a language from some other planet, and enough pastry to see any cop well into retirement. And of course, no sign of the runaway heiress he's supposed to be chasing. By the time Hicks catches up with her, he will find himself also entangled with Nazis, Soviet agents, British counterspies, swing musicians, practitioners of the paranormal, outlaw motorcyclists, and troubles that come with each of them, none of which Hicks is qualified. Forget about being paid to deal with. Surrounded by history he has no grasp of and can't see his way around in or out of, the only bright side for Hicks is the dawn of the big band era, and as it happens, he's a pretty good dancer. Whether this will be enough to allow him somehow to Lindy hop his way back to Milwaukee and the normal world, which may no longer exist, is another question.
You can tell he wrote that because it's... You read a lot of his dust jackets. He writes those, and
Yeah.
so that's very much him.
I wonder what
writing
percentage
that.
of authors actually do that. Or
It's
like
funny
they
because-
write them and then the publisher just
What's
straight
so
up
funny
changes them.
actually about him is that he's known as this person who's very like private, but he actually writes a pretty good amount of
Yeah.
like commentaries, criticisms, his own dust jackets. Like that's a randomly very like vulnerable place to put yourself as a
Right.
novelist actually. But yeah, other than just being like, oh, I don't want pictures taken of me and I don't want anybody to know who I am or where I
So
am.
it goes without. Also, the category is listed on Penguin Random House's website as literary fiction and noir novels, which obviously up that alley. Just to
Sounds kind of like almost picking up where, in certain ways, Against the Day sort of left off almost in certain parts.
we're huge fans, in case you couldn't already tell, of Pynchon, and we had talked about, like, we just didn't know whether or not he was going to
I
have
just
another
thought
book. I mean, he was born in 37.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So he's
gonna be
88 years
this year.
old.
Yeah.
So it's natural to just go, well, Bleeding Edge was the last book, and what a obviously great rich
well,
career.
I always assumed that he would die and one more would be published.
Yeah.
But I guess he's doing it of his own volition.
Yeah.
Because that kind of happened to Harper Lee. She was barely still alive, but they published Ghost Set of Watchmen, and everybody flipped out over that. How it was. She didn't even want it published, apparently.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah, and the family kind of
pushed her into it.
Did it because she had dementia or whatever. They wanted money anyway. Whatever the case with that is. But yeah, obviously this is big news, and what's even stranger than all this is the fact that One Battle After Another is going to be coming out in September.
A few weeks before that.
September 26th, day before your birthday, and then they're going to...
It's been essentially confirmed that it is an adaptation of sorts of Vinland, which of course was his 1990 novel.
So yeah, obviously that's...
Is he having a moment?
News.
Is Pynchonian having a moment?
Well, it's weird because, I was already going to do this anyway, but I'm going to reread Inherent Vice starting this week, and then I'm going to read Bleeding Edge for the first full time. I've read like half of it years ago, and then of course before that.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to read through a lot of his other books again, but I thought about what I'm going to do. This is a random thing, but Mom and I are going to read Mason and Dixon together. And what we're going to do it almost like a bedtime story, because I feel like that's the way the book is almost written.
Yeah.
And read it like at night for like 30 minutes to an hour and just see how long it takes to get through it. Because I know she'd like that book. I felt like if I wanted to get her to read one of his books, that would be the one. Because the more and more I think about it, I think that might actually be his best book.
It's between that or Vineland as far as what my favorite is. Vinland, just in terms, I always say it different the next time.
I know.
Vineland, like, just as far as my own personal interests, obviously we're doing this show right now, so obviously I'm clearly interested in the 1960s. That just is one of his biggest swings at that time period, or after looking back at that time period, And Mason and Dixon is just such a overwhelming, powerful expression of like that kind of late colonial era America.
Right.
This book too, like, it sounds like it checks off a lot of boxes of things he's interested in. I mean, there's aspects of it that obviously remind me of Gravity's Rainbow in terms of the spies and counter spies and like how that all is going to fit, together. I'm sure there's going to be, in Hicks McTaggart, the name easily sounds like it could have been a character in one of his books already.
Sounds like the name of the Guided by Voices song "Exit Flagger" is what I keep hearing every time I hear it. But
obviously, he's one of the quintessential writers of the 60s and beyond. So that was one reason we were like, we'll mention this. Very excited.
Year of the
October
Pynchon,
7th.
So
it's coming out. So no cover yet for that.
Yeah, cover coming soon. That'd be hilarious if that was the actual cover.
But it just feels like such
soon.
a beautiful gift. Like, you get another Pynchon book. So very excited for that. Anything else before?
Well, let's just talk a little bit about Last of Us.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because that's the big show that's on right now. I'm gonna let you talk about it a little bit because I'm a Last of Us fan.
Yeah, so I've played a little bit of the first game and I do like it. I've kind of figured out a little later in life. I don't know to what extent I'm going to be a gamer again. That's just nothing wrong with it. Especially Levi's I'd say one of the good gamers in terms of you don't let it dominate your life or anything.
No, but I play a lot of video games.
So
I think very critically about them too.
Yeah.
I mean, because I make an effort to try to write about them on my blog, ones that I think I'm interested in thinking about, like, but right.
So I played a little bit of the first game and liked it, and haven't went back and followed it up and finished it. Really liked season 1. We're only 2 episodes in, I guess, right now. Season 2.
The day we're recording this, episode 3 will be out by then. But
really liking this season so far. I will say, like, in broad strokes, I've been spoiled on like what the story is and it's about. Not even just from Levi, but just paying attention to the culture of the last so many years. So I've been really liking it so far. I think the second episode, which by the time this is airing, there'll be a third episode out, was really well done. Hard to watch because it kind of, I don't know to what extent we want to spoil things.
No, we don't have to.
Kind of a really gut-wrenching scene for me, I thought. I will say, like, as someone who's like a moderate enjoyer of this show, I don't know to what extent I really love it. Like, it's appointment television. Like, I gotta watch it night of. And by the way, I don't know if I've had one of those in quite a while, anyways. Yeah. But I have quite liked it. But the discourse around this show is outright mystifying to me. I know Levi's probably followed it even closer than I have. What's Ellie's
Bella
actress?
Ramsey.
Yeah, Bella Ramsey. Like, the whole discourse around her has been so warped, and I don't
She's
use
a
this
they,
term.
them, by the way, just saying.
I'm sorry if I said she. The whole discourse around them has been so strange and outright disgusting in a lot of ways, and I'm just like, what is up with this?
Well, think because how beloved that she was with Game of Thrones by the same people. So I don't really
and I think
get that.
Part of it too probably, and I'll be curious what you say this, probably reveals this weird sexual attraction that players of the game had to Ellie, and the fact that she's just quote unquote, they are not quote unquote as conventionally attractive as a video game render is very weird, very strange. Caitlin Deaver has been a really good addition, obviously. Abby's her character's name. So it's a show that I've quite liked. I don't know if I really truly love it a lot, but it is like just, I think, a pretty good post-apocalypse show in general. I'm a little tired of that as a genre of storytelling. I think this is like one of the better ones, obviously, that's existed for some time. Because there was a time where those stories felt kind of sort of special, and there's just now so many of them that exist.
Well, the strange thing is what makes this feel special is the fact of what it's actually about.
Well, that was what I was getting ready to say, is there's not, they don't call them zombies, they call them infected, but they're essentially zombies. And I know people have said this about various seasons of The Walking Dead, which is a show I've watched like maybe 2 or 3 total episodes of ever.
I watched the first season.
Have said that, it's like it's a zombie show without zombies, or that's not important in the same way that it is for other things. And I think obviously that's a good thing. That makes it interesting. So anyway, I'll cede the floor to you just to say that I've quite liked this season so far. But the whole online discourse around it has been very strange and very odd. Yeah,
of course I'm a supporter of all of it as far as the show. I mean, not of the discourse. I'm a supporter of the show. I think it's great. Always love every change they make, except for the last season when they had the thing about the guys that were the cannibals and they were Christians. That just seemed really out left field, stupid, ridiculous. No reason for that to happen. That wasn't in the game. Why would you do that? Anyway, I remember Rainn Wilson randomly spoke out against that, and I was like, oh, okay, well, good. But I didn't like that. But literally every other change this show ever makes, I'm like, yep, that's better, because the whole, this might be hard to believe for somebody who hasn't played the second game, but literally that whole big set piece of them attacking the Jackson settlement was literally not in the game at all. Like, not in any way whatsoever. Wow. So it was like, oh, well, good. Yeah. And it's like, actually great version of like a...
well, it's strange to say on a technical level, it's probably easier to shoot a scene like that than it is to animate it and create it.
It would be
a video game.
Well, now they have a version of that at the very end of the game when the Washington Liberation Front and the Seraphites are fighting this really big battle on the island of the Seraphites. But that scene is like the climactic moment of the game, and it's made a big deal about it, even though the game goes on for like an hour and a half, 2 hours after that. Yeah. That's like made a big thing, naturally. But yeah, you're right about that. But I mean, also I think it's like when you're playing a game, it's different because you get to do the action the whole time. When you have a show, you kind of need to inject more action throughout that, I think.
Because a big part of the game is just simply walking around and foraging.
Yeah, right. Or doing the action, obviously. Right. But like to watch the show, it's like, no, you need more of that to make it exciting. So I thought all that was totally great. Was like on the level, if not better than some of the best Game of Thrones sieges in that way. Obviously, everybody knew what was going to happen at the end of this episode. I feel like people have mostly reacted well to that, although there have been people who haven't watched the show or haven't played the game, I mean, like you or others that are like, I can't watch this anymore. It's like, well, that's kind of the point.
No, right, like, absolutely, I
mean,
it's meant to be,
it's like
face,
because and that character's not in it anymore. It's like, well, that's But now we have a new character named Abby, by the way, who's really great character if you pay attention. And I think Caitlin Deaver's great. People were complaining about the fact she wasn't buff enough for the role. It's just like, what are we doing? Like,
I feel like this stuff does not exist for the same way for men.
No, it doesn't.
All the male characters of the game.
And what really makes me angry is I remember that the second game came out in the COVID summer, or kind of late COVID summer, early COVID fall, and in 2020. And I remember knowing about the game because my friend Liam, shout out to Liam if he's ever listened to this, at college was a big fan of that first game, and then even my good friend Carla, shout out if you're ever listening to this, is also a big fan of it. And so I was aware of the game, but I was like, oh, that's PlayStation, and I didn't really care at the time.
Yeah, you 360 you had.
Yeah, and also I was just like, I don't care to ever play those, it doesn't matter to me. And then when they did the show, I was like, oh, this looks really good, watched the show, loved that, and then wanted to play the game. So I'm also somebody who watched the first season not knowing what the end results would be.
Yeah.
But I remember when that second game came out, and they were putting up all these you probably remember this, anybody listening that was on Twitter at the time remembers this, that a lot of people were saying, oh, name somebody who's had it rougher than Ellie, and they were coming up with all these people, making a joke out of everything that happened. And I say this consistently every time I get a chance. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think every single person that ever existed in the Last of Us universe has a worse life than we'll ever probably have. Not everyone. Some people on this earth today have a way worse life than some of the people that would be in those games. Sure. Don't get me wrong. The people who are in these big settlements that are taken care of from a young age, they probably got an all right enough life, But any random person who's like a main character in these games, like, no, I think they've got it pretty bad. Like, all their friends killed, all the torture they've gone through, all these things. Like, no, that's stupid.
The sense of hunger you feel at every given moment.
Right, it's just, I mean, not being able to eat regular food. Like, I mean, you see consistently in the game and the show, when they have to eat, they're like, oh, well, let's eat this, like, 20-year-old Chef Boyardee. Like, that just so when people say stuff
all
like
that stuff is shortening their life expectancy.
Yeah, I mean, and they say it don't taste too bad, and it's mostly, I mean, canned food mostly isn't as bad to eat, by then, I'm assuming, as other things. Yeah. But also, that's literally what the show and the game require, is that, well, they have to live on something. So so that's a storytelling device. But anyway, just to say all that is, like, I remember how these people acted about that game when it came out, and a lot of people were very negative on it. And now most people agree, oh, that game is totally great and is literally one of the greatest games of all time, which I would say, I thought that from the moment I was playing it. Thought it was really great. And I think it's in the top 3 best games ever for not only gameplay and the graphics, but also just the story itself. And that's what I think is going to be so great about these 2 seasons of TV that they're making out of that one game. But yeah, it's just really extremely schizophrenic the way that people act about this fandom. I don't understand at all, because also it's a pretty abjectly liberal, progressive story taking place in a apocalyptic context. And I'd say most post-apocalyptic stories are actually pretty liberal, relatively. But they are so beloved by the right-wing populace that I think they don't know that. This is very staunchly that, though. It's so pro-LGBTQ rights. It's so anti-fascist. It's so, like, it's very definitively, but then also is made by a Jewish man created it. And so, therefore, it has some religious ideas that aren't at all, like, overpowering in the story, but are also still very present. Yeah. And that the whole statement of both games about sacrificing one person versus everyone else and how that's wrong, which is something I definitely agree with, and I know a lot of people don't. I've seen on Twitter they don't agree with that. But you're honestly, not to get too far in this, your thoughts on that probably go to what you think about abortion, so that's its own thing. Anyway, point is that those games are pretty rabidly liberal. Yeah. And so then I'm like, and then people act real like these, like, these, like, really right-wing men ideas about this stuff. And I'm like, well, why did you like this in the first place? Because this is not for you, literally, almost, is what I want to say. So it's a very confusing thing. What's funny, though, is that all the critics are like, and even people like you or haven't played the game are like, oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's like, it's kind of like how critics acted about the Star Wars prequels. They were like, oh, yeah, they're all right. Whatever. Yeah. It's like,
And
I
how
wish
they-
I could
how the
even be
prequels,
that.
yeah,
You
were
know,
generally
right?
like, thought that way.
I mean, I wish I could even be that in my own way, but thankfully it's good. So yeah. Speaking of Twitter, I'm going to end it here and we'll move on. I've been seriously thinking about getting off of Twitter because I'm so tired, and this is going to get very political, so let me be clear about that. I am so tired of how much conservative stuff I see on there all the time.
Yeah,
It's
I've
just
seen those
totally
too.
insane.
Yeah.
And I looked it up because I was curious about it. It sounds almost stupid. I was like, does X prioritize conservative?
Yeah.
And it's like, I know it sounds dumb
Yeah.
to even ask that question. But I typed it in, and there was something back in 2021 that said that. That was like, oh, yeah, actually it does that. And
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking, yeah, because I just get so tired of seeing the same crap. And it's like, I look at it and interact with it. That doesn't mean I agree with it. So then it probably even more thinks that I want that stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't. And so I literally went through yesterday, put like people that I saw, and it's always the same crap. You know, it's like these men that have these pictures of themselves in suits, and they're like MBA and BSology, whatever, you know, some accounting crap. America first, Trump this, American flag this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all the same crap. They're literally like clones of each other.
A lot
It's
of them
pretty
have
hilarious.
some cryptocurrency, like,
Right? Yes.
connection
Yeah.
to,
Oh, and
like,
they're into stocks and all this crap. Yeah. And so they like, I went through and was like saying not interested, not with a bunch of these, hoping it would do something. But basically, my answer to that is this: I'm not going off for now because until at least our doing of this show is over. That way, I don't have to promote it on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
And that could be years. So who knows?
I've also
But
had a lot of
I'm just so tired of seeing the
reservations
same
about
crap.
it,
Yeah.
and the thing is, I get a lot of like news and observations on, especially film related
Yes.
stuff, but even other stuff too from there.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons. And there is the For You section, which is follow things you follow and other things, but I get a lot of stuff even from the For You section, so I'll probably keep it just for that. Because
No, that's
you
what
can
I
do-
keep it on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can do just things you
No,
follow,
I
and
wanna
that would be
see-
more
right. Yeah, I could
like-
do that, but I'm not unwilling to see
I'm not either. That's what
other
I'm saying.
things.
And
but
I get
it's
a lot
just,
from that
right.
stuff,
and
so.
I'm not unwilling to see other ideas. Even I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm totally shutting off and I want to be ignorant to what other people are saying. But it's all the same stuff,
Yeah.
and it's all the time. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, no, I don't really want to hear that
Yeah.
or see it.
That
like,
in general,
you know.
social media content moderation has been taking a huge back step the
Yeah.
last few years, and that's
And they do the community notes thing, but that doesn't mean anything. People
Yeah.
are going to look at it anyway, or they'll see it and then it'll get put up.
I did.
and that's- yeah.
I haven't blocked like maybe 2 or 3 people in my entire time I've been on Twitter. Elon Musk more recently was one of them because obviously he owns the platform,
Yeah.
so anything he posts can go to anybody.
He was the one I said not interested, and hopefully it won't show back up. But if it does,
But anyways, I blocked him, and he not that he cares
No,
about
no,
that at
obviously,
all. I
yeah,
know that,
right.
but just done with seeing it. But
yeah, and it frustrates me too because there's some. This is the last thing I'll say about this. This is kind of off topic from this, but how many kids I know that would never listen to this podcast, obviously, so I'll just speak frankly, that I really care about, but are really stupid because and obviously they're like 14 years old, so
Yeah.
so they don't know anything.
TikTok is I would imagine
right,
their dominant
but they're
thing. that
yeah,
they're watching.
yeah. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the Twitter aspect of that here. I'm just saying like that they're very much like, oh, well, this person makes this much money and does this and that, and I'm like, that's your measure of success, and they're like, yeah. And I know that might even sound stupid to some
I deal
people,
with that with high school,
but I'm
a
like,
lot,
well,
yeah.
that's what your measure of success is how much money you have.
Yeah.
And they were like, they're like, oh, well, they did this to get here and that. I was like, no, all these people come from rich families,
Yeah.
so that's why they did that.
Yeah.
And I look at them, I'm like, you think you're going to do that? You can't even pass the 8th grade halfway. Like, are you serious? It was like I was saying that we went and saw Warfare again, me and Fred Dula, shout out Fred, who's a very more conservative guy, by the way, just saying.
Yeah.
And we don't agree on a lot of things.
But you're
yeah,
still friends.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I
You
don't
still.
care. But anyway,
talk to
I
each
just keep my mouth shut and let
Yeah.
him talk. Anyway, we went and saw that Warfare again. I was kind of telling him, I was like, yeah, there's some kids that my brother, this story you've told, kids are like, yeah, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. It's like, you can't even pass high school. You think they're going to let you do that? Like, being a Navy SEAL is like not something you can just like do.
Most people
Even
who do that are like
mentally.
literally were always at the top of their class,
Right.
and like always the most prestigious people
Yeah.
from wherever they come
'Cause it's
from,
not
as
just
well as
that-
like astronauts and
Right,
stuff.
right.
Like,
Yeah, it's not
includes a lot-
just that they can do all the physical stuff. They have to be smart enough to actually like do things.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, because I told Fred, I was like, these are the scariest people alive.
Yeah.
Because they are at least that smart enough to do the things they're doing. I'm not saying they're reading books every day or nothing, but
Yeah.
like but also are literally doing the stuff they do under fire, under pressure, and they're kind of just like, yep, all right, whatever, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Indian summer.
You have to apply like a lot of like intellectual heft to battlefield strategy on an active basis,
math and science, and
Yeah.
knowing a lot of things. Yeah, and kids don't care about that. So it's like, no, you're not going to be able to do that.
I forgot a kid told me that. And I remember exactly who said that now that you said that. But
Yeah, I have no clue who it was, but yeah, that's like what I've heard other people say too. Like, yep, go ahead and get you to drive the trucks is what they'll say. Like, basically saying that's all you can do. And by the way, I know somebody in my life that is relatively close enough to me that is a kind of a family friend that literally did drive trucks for the National Guard. So I'm not making fun of that either.
Right.
I'm just saying that, like, no, you're going to be put doing stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, our great uncle Arnold, who we'll probably talk a little bit about when we get to the Gene Hofstadt stuff, I'm sure. Not that he was at all exactly like him.
Yeah.
He was very funny, but he wasn't like evil like he probably is.
Yeah.
But he didn't get to go in the army because he couldn't lift boxes in World War II. They literally gave him like a physical, and he couldn't do that. So they're like, "Nah, we're not going to take you." So that's what these people you mostly do is do physical stuff, and it's like, don't worry, there'll be enough room for you.
Mm-hmm.
You just won't be doing the stuff you want to do.
Right.
Are you nuke smart? Have you seen that commercial?
Yeah.
It's like,
and then goes back through that child's life, and basically
It's
it's
like,
basically
he was,
making the point that we were saying is that like
Yeah.
every step of that
Right,
child's
yeah,
life,
no, I think
he
that's
was
pretty
an
accurate,
engineering
yeah.
genius.
right, but it's
basically,
like, but are you nuke smart?
We need to make that a more popular thing
Got
to
milk?
ask people.
Are you
like,
nuke smart?
Are you nuke smart?
I'm gonna
Like,
start saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyways, Indian summer. So we're gonna take a brief station break. You're gonna hear a very interesting ad here.
yeah. These people were not the top of their class. Whoever made this ad, I'll say that.
Enjoy.
If you're a woman, you know what it means to be needed. You know how much fun it can be. You know, too, how all the fun can go out of your life when the tensions of a woman's day cause an exhausting headache to interfere. But now you have special help. It's called COPE. C-O-P-E. New COPE helps you by relieving headache pain. At the same time, a gentle relaxer in COPE eases the tension that so often causes the pain. Many pills are sold for everybody's headaches, but COPE is for women. The formula that eases the pain and, with a gentle relaxer, eases the tension behind it. COPE understands women as no other headache remedy can. When everyday tension brings on a headache, take new COPE. You'll be back at your best again fast. You'll know it, and so will those who need your love so much.
And here we are. We're back. I know that we fundamentally understand that, wow, times were different back then, but you see an ad like that, and you're like, this literally feels like it was from 200 years ago, much less like only 60-ish. Like,
Yeah. 3 in the attic kind of deal. It's like, what?
All right, so we're watching from the Blu-ray, hitting play in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There he is. He's still standing there.
He's still.
I wonder if he does.
He looks
this
like he's
every
like moving
day.
like the Spike Lee thing where they like move, but they're not walking.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
No, recently me and Laney had watched Malcolm X, and towards the end,
Yeah,
the
there's that
scene
part
before he
where that
dies,
happens
where
to
he's
him.
doing it,
Right.
and she was like, for a second, she was like, "Is he like floating?" it's like, I mean, it looks like it, but
Right.
yeah.
I mean, it's pretty dumb, to be honest, that he does that so often, but
It's real lot.
There's a famous
then
one
it's
in,
like, yeah, I'm nuke smart. You can tell
there's
that's
there's a
vibe
famous
it's
one in
for.
The Inside Man. I've never seen that, but
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've not seen all of that either. I love when hotels look like this, which was before my time. I don't remember any like this, but when you see them, in
what you
movies
mean,
and
like
TV,
garbage?
well, just like the wraparound, like
Yeah.
yeah. It speaks to Donald Draper. You see that? Like it was written
He spelled it wrong.
Donild. I think is what it
What?
said. Yeah.
Wow.
But there's just more engineering like interest as opposed to the bare minimum
Right.
of like whatever we can just get done. Is that the 5G?
I guess it's the money he didn't use.
Yeah, probably. Should have wrote him an IOU. It's like,
Just like George Plimpton.
he kind of does actually. Yeah. We should have had a character play a young George Plimpton in the show.
Yeah.
Busybodies. Don't do that. Like.
Yeah. Those off air will know, but
Those in Kyle and Levi's Sunday school class. If
Yeah.
you know, you know.
or anybody reading the quarterly every week.
the Lifeway Quarterly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't quite remember what Peggy looked like in the last episode, but she's clearly like a little bigger than she had.
What's that? You mean your personal phone call? Like you don't take personal phone calls, Joan? Come on.
Yeah.
You're literally head of personnel,
yeah.
and you don't take personal like a personal pan pizza. You don't do that.
Just how striking Don looks in that shot. He's like, I mean, Roger at one point says like him and Betty look like the top of our wedding cakes.
Right.
Like that's literally what he looks like.
All these guys look
person.
like total garbage.
Well, Sal looks okay.
Yeah. Freddie though.
Freddie no. Harry no. Pete okay.
He was all right. I guess Ken don't look too bad, but.
So really, it's just
it's
Freddie
just Freddie's what I was talking about. Yeah, and Harry.
We actually get to be in the room of a conversation where, like, this product sucks, but how are we going to sell it? Because we all know that advertisers are thinking this about plenty of things.
Regimen. What is it? Regime? She didn't even spell it right.
I'm going to hope that that's it. I love that they don't want to quite say what it is. Like they're all uncomfortable about it. We're not even ready for the. Oh, I know we've seen it, but the Harry looks like later in the show. Oh my god. Let's take the money and run, is what Ken's saying.
I love they're like, the women love it, but it ain't really working.
Basically very cruelly thinking, well, she needs to use it. Let's give it to her.
What, one battle after another? One milkshake after another. That was a joke my 8th graders made about comparing it to There Will Be Blood, as saying one milkshake after another.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the one of our Hispanic kids, Emmanuel, did that. He's from Nicaragua. English isn't his first language, and even he did that. Come up with that.
Was that Philip Seymour Hoffman when he heard that he wasn't in There Will Be Blood? Was that what happened?
One battle after another.
One milkshake after another.
One milkshake after another.
Yeah. R.I.P. If you say R.I.P. after insulting somebody, then it's totally fine. By the way, that's illegal. You can look it up in the Book of Laws, Volume 6.
The Book of Laws.
Yeah. You should just start saying that to people. Like, it's in the Book of Laws, Volume 5. Like, just page 74. It's like, no. Like, don't think you're just on your way up because we actually care what you think. See how Pete's like intentionally not looking at her at all? Like, it just.
Yeah. No, meal. Go, Gadget.
We don't get much of this roommate. Peggy's got a really great passive-aggressive voice. She uses a lot. At some point, we should rank the Peggy roommates. That boy who was like in one of those apartment buildings, remember, towards the very end.
Oh, Julio.
Yeah, Julio. I think, yeah, he's the winner already. I know.
Oh yeah, and he's like, he says something at one point. He's like, I don't even remember what situation they were like arguing about something. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly not for weight loss.
It's just so dumb.
Yeah,
like, you can tell this was probably was trying to be something else, and they're like, it's like a weight loss thing or whatever. And then they found a whole other utility for it. Sister Salty is the book she's reading over there on the nightstand. You can tell that's makeup on her face.
Yeah.
What the hell? It's like, wow, we've been in the Valley Hills Mall lately on the sitting on the the massage chairs.
Yeah.
I think that'll be when I know I totally give up on life, is when I buy a massage chair. Now, if I have a legit medical condition, that's understandable, but I don't know. I feel like probably
I think
there's
it's so
a lot
funny
of
that people go to the mall and they sit in those things.
Yeah, just like it's part of the experience.
Yeah,
like, you go to Spencer's.
I'm not doing that.
You get Japanese food. Like,
meanwhile,
you walk by where the Disney store used to be. Yeah, was it the very end of last episode where they started officially having an affair? I think. Yeah. So fascinating that so many of Don's affairs are with darker haired women.
How hard it must be for you.
Poor him.
No, I mean the situation they're in right now.
No, I'm saying like poor him, like because it's not hard.
No, I mean
yeah,
sexuality is what I'm talking about here, but
real beast of burden kind of deal.
Yeah.
Should have gave the thing to Betty. Not that she needs to lose any weight at this stage, but. When you don't want to iron or clean your clothes, just get a bunch of shirts.
I did the work on the weight loss belt, like you asked. You asked me to.
What is your unique point of view?
I wrote it down.
Summarize.
One day I
It's like when you can try to get a student to ask what they've learned today,
wrote it down.
and this is what they say.
oh, is this where he's looking at the paper? We have a picture of that. Yeah.
Peggy, you're saying even less in here than more in there.
It's hard to put into words.
Then you would fail.
That's her spit it out Campbell moment.
Yeah.
That I did something I would like to feel.
Where is that here?
It vibrates. And that coincides with how you wear it.
That.
Yeah.
I see that here, but sensation.
A sensation.
Success. And it basically makes
This is basically the she was masturbating
Yeah.
moment
We'll,
of this season.
we'll rightly celebrate that.
Oh
later,
yeah,
but
well, that will be a celebratory moment.
she's like, okay.
What, that experience? Like,
I have actually this writing advice for various things has helped me out at various times in my life. And also it clarifies his writing process, as
Yeah.
we'll see.
basically, he
Times
just
later.
does a bunch of stuff, does nothing,
Yeah.
and then comes up with it in the moment.
Yeah.
Speaking of vibration,
An opportunity.
of course.
And she has her own little relaxicizer fantasy herself here.
Yeah. It's that daggum Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle MacLachlan and Harry Shearer randomly, like a young, not like older, but I don't know something about him.
Harry Shearer, who's that?
He's the guy that voices a lot of Simpsons characters, and he's like,
what, you
he's
mean
in,
Hank Azaria? You know that?
No, this is Spinal Tap.
Oh, that guy.
guy.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, randomly there's a sequel of coming out later this year.
Yeah, I kind of heard about it. Oh, yeah, he kind of does look like him, without the facial hair.
Yeah. He's also the weatherman in Godzilla, Roland Emmerich's Godzilla.
Oh. Yeah. He's 81.
Wow.
He was part of a radio comedy group called The Credibility Gap.
That's actually a great name. The Credibility Gap. I think his most famous one is Principal Skinner. He's done lots of them.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But him and Hank Azaria have done like tons of. He's also in Godzilla.
Who, Hank Azaria?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie in so long.
He's like a videotape guy. He's like running around with a video camera the whole movie. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, kinda. It's been like 20 years since I've seen that whole movie, so.
Okay, I'm not gonna really draw a line in the sand on it because it ain't worth fighting the battle. But I think that movie's lightly underrated. Like, I don't think it's great or anything.
I love the production design
Well, the action
of that
scenes are
movie
really
is really good as far as all the rain.
Speaking of action scenes,
the rain and everything, you know.
It shows you how really bored Betty has to be to this. She's even at this stage of this interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I know this guy's obviously pushy too, but and she gets some washing machine, action
Like
later.
Sonic Youth, yeah.
We talked about this, but it is pretty
We're
wild.
having this lunch bedside, I suppose.
That like there's a genuine like, oh, is Roger in or out of the show at this stage? And it's kind of funny to watch later because of course he's one of the main characters throughout. But
Just her sister,
yes, I think so.
because she's in the show again in season 7.
Mm-hmm. Say that if this show was she was the main character and about her romance with Donnie, it'd be called a goy story, but or a boy toy story,
A story gory.
story gory story. It's a very scary gory story.
He's a very scary guy. Some of that goy wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we know it ain't genuine Chinese people with them.
You are your own worst enemy.
We don't get to
Anyways,
see what hers was.
yeah.
Probably you were in love with Don Draper.
You were in love with Donald Francis Draper.
You know, it's one of the most annoying things is when people do the joke about I'm trapped in a fortune cookie factory, help me out. Is what they put
I've
in
never
there.
heard
You
that.
never heard
No,
that?
no,
It's
no.
so stupid. Oh, it makes me mad. Like, because I hear it every so often. Like, help! I'm in a nutshell. How did I get in this nutshell? Like, that's actually kind of funny. But
No, this is me in a nutshell.
yeah,
If any good comes from a new Shrek movie, maybe you know what? Let's just do it. Just do a new Austin Powers movie like
Yeah.
today. Like, I love this. This is one of my
Yeah,
favorite Don
baby.
Draper what's coming up.
yeah. What?
So, oh wait, I'm all of a sudden invested in this marriage.
Stranger in my house? I damn well will raise my voice. Do you have any idea what could have happened?
You cannot eat an air conditioner.
Yeah.
As Putney Swope taught us.
Good night, Peggy.
No, she tried.
He didn't. Meanwhile, the smile.
Something about his face when he has the moment when he's
Yeah.
like toasting has always made me laugh. This was
Oh,
in
right.
one of those like, oh, Mad Men won all these awards.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like clips.
Get back to work.
He actually don't really look that bad, but of course you're gonna be, oh my god, he looks awful. Like, you know, he does look pretty pale though.
Yeah, the magic of makeup.
That's all you get.
Heck, now go save the company. Because
The
these
moment-
weirdos from North Carolina want to pull out.
The moment when he's in there and oh, like,
He's like, does this
yeah.
face like?
Not really.
Is he meaning that literally or like
The
Mirabelle?
the room where it happened.
Mirabelle?
Maribel was there. I don't know what happened to her.
Mirabelle.
Miss Holloway brought you here because of your discretion.
Discretion. Because of your discretion.
Well, we don't need Miami Beach.
But we need your discretion. You know what I mean?
We don't need him looking like Aretha Franklin, but
Oh,
you know,
I thought you said something else for a second. Aretha Franklin.
watch the Mr. McMahon Netflix docu-series and you'll know.
Or just remember his blackface moment. So, wow.
Yeah,
later
season
on.
3.
Season 3 blackface moment. Every show has one.
Every show has this blackface moment, and every time you just got to roll your
See,
eyes.
now
and shrug,
Atlanta did
like,
a whiteface moment in season 3.
Yeah, that's true. Every time that show comes up, which I love, I was like, oh, I gotta go back and finish it. Like,
Yeah. In like a kind of exhausted way?
well,
or
like homework, like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Right.
part of me wants to just go back and just start from the beginning.
Yeah, that's probably
and
what I
finish
would
it
do, is
out,
just
like,
watch the whole
But it's a
thing.
great show.
Yeah, it is.
I love it.
That was at a time when actually there was a lot of great TV on at that time, but that
Yeah.
felt like the best thing, and it
Yeah, it
probably
did,
still
yeah.
is. So I wish that like
There's a window where that and the Deuce were on, I think, at the same time.
yeah.
Or around the
I mean,
same
I
time.
wish that like we lived in an era where you could argue over what the best show was, rather than nothing's good.
Yeah.
Like, so
Well, as we've talked about, there's just so much. It's just hard to, you know, just find a barometer for what is and isn't good.
I'll tell you something because you're very dear to me. I hope you understand it comes from the bottom of my damaged.
bottom of my sack.
Well, I mean, listen to what he says.
Yeah.
You are the finest piece of ass I ever had.
As we've said before, I think he does genuinely love Joan,
Yeah.
but she rightfully is like, this is not a healthy relationship, so no.
A lot of time to think of the things I've done. And I'm sorry about. And being with you was not one of them.
Comes from the bottom of his sack. His Johnny sack.
Well, his red Santa sack that he later
red
dresses
sack.
up.
Yeah.
Put it on, Roger.
Put it on.
Put it on.
Put it on,
That's
Roger.
a very Sopranos moment. I mean, every show also has its "you will dress up like Santa Claus or else" moment. You know,
Put it on. That little additional like
you will do.
yeah,
Correct.
Put it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a question anymore of that. But you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm at Lee Garner Jr.'s like, you will hold my balls and you will put on that red sack. Okay.
I kind of like that wallpaper there.
Because I kind of like that line. Like, why?
No, I mean, not necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't hate it either.
Yeah, it's just like, like. You wear sunglasses at night. Yeah, right.
Yeah. You think we need to bring back wallpaper as a phenomenon?
No.
I don't necessarily either. I'm just thinking about the what if of it all.
After I recognize how aggravating it is to take down, no.
Yeah, that's just the worst. I forgot. Yeah, we did that in Mom and Dad's room a few years ago.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Wanted him to feel jealous. The AC guy was getting me a little hot and bothered. All you gotta do is call dad.com. You hear those ads on the radio?
Do what?
All you gotta do is call dad.com.
No, I ain't.
It's like for repair stuff. Alright, here we go. Wouldn't you just feel like such a inconvenience that every time you show up and they roll out the red carpet so big? I would just think that'd be, yeah, obviously there are these upper crust idiots,
Yeah.
but just so almost self-embarrassing.
Here they are now.
No, Lee Garner Jr.
Couldn't make it.
Well, from what I hear, you boys should all but give me up for dead. I don't think it's wrong, son. Well, I know how much you love your delicatessen. I know there's also something else you want to discuss. You worried about losing the lawsuit? There were no damages, but we lost. But there were no damages. Blame is one thing, malice is another. I worked my way inside and out in the FTC. Saw a lot of dinners in Washington.
It's funny that like this is a whole thing about will he have another heart attack, and then the rest of the show is not even really a question.
It's like, how much LSD will he take?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a stockholder, so I called Chester Conrad in the Surgeon General's office, and he assured me it would be at least 3 years before they could compile a report. The legislation is in progress.
You hear another year or two beyond that. They speculate they're going to warning signs and packages.
Still plenty of time for it to worry about that. During which, we wait and see if share drops off before we run for the door.
I love that the whole strategy is like, well, we know all this regulation and like all this stuff's around the corner, so let's just soak it up while we can and punt it, kick it down the road.
I'm glad we came by.
Are you?
I missed you all.
I missed you all. So hilarious. They always have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Smoking one of the cigarettes.
Well, like give them air and they just like pull out an oxygen tank,
Yeah.
like wrap it around his leg. Yeah.
Or busted the window open and
Yeah.
like thrust him out of it.
Is that going to be me coming back from 1 week off from school, like make it through one class period, and like, I can't do it.
We tried to talk him out of it, but weak people. I used to think you couldn't put a value on human life. But I never asked for a Cooper, did I? Go to hell, Bert.
Anyways, I'll see you next week.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you. Anyway, but
maybe you do. Maybe you do. Where I come from in North Kakalaki, I hate when people say that. By the way, we gotta know got the dadgum.
wants to be an
Bill
executive of an
Dead
aluminum
Dough
company.
Boy.
He's listening.
Meanwhile, taking notes mentally.
Even if he survives,
Real
he's a
heads
dead
know
man.
that's not the original photo.
Yeah.
Of Trudy. If it was like a season 5 or 6 plot line, like actually there's another Trudy about. It's just like that's like a mistaken identity, like identity crisis thing.
It would have happened a long time ago if they weren't so greedy. Already paying his weight in gold. Half the accounts at this agency came for Drake.
Birmingham brings in a lot of accounts. Come on, you sit in that conference room. Frank Birmingham brings them in, and while they're dozing off, Tom goes to the
Who's Frank Birmingham?
What about Miss Sullivan? He's fat, bald, and charmless.
Take Draper Lexi. He writes me pretty cards. Sorry to tell him. He tell he likes you. I work at it. I work at it too. But I can tell you do. Never know what he's doing.
There's not a man in this room who's not holding Don Draper on their shoulders so that he can reach partner.
He's not going to fire you.
Who said anything about that?
No one.
Looks like a young Leo here a little bit, especially like Catch Me If You Can era.
But you know anything about business? Cleaning out the old guys? It's good for us. Opens up spot.
For you? You don't move along when they move, honey.
Remember
honey,
this guy?
Barely. I remember more about the guy in season 7 that she's like, let's go to Paris or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that guy. I don't understand why you'd eat something you didn't order. LaDonna. A Rheingold.
Well, my friend John always orders them for me, but usually they're sweeter.
Yeah, this is going great. You can tell.
She's a scream.
She lives in the city.
You owe me a scream.
There's a studio to Wes Craven every year. Like,
Yeah. Well, not anymore. But
well, used to be, yeah, not now. They keep calling his number and he never gets back to
and they're
them.
like, "What's going on?"
Oh yeah, he died.
Oh, he
like,
died. Yeah.
So you drive a truck.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that the owl ones? They got the owl
Yeah.
logo.
Now, yeah, I don't know if
yeah,
they
yeah.
did, but-
We get the whole season 2 Utz subplot.
So he's like, "You don't like potato chips?" Like he's almost like,
So I just don't know if this.
"Well,
can
let's
work
just
if
say
you
they're
don't
not
like
together
it.
in season 7." So
Yeah.
I guess that's
He should have came back. Got his curtain call moment, for all he's contributed to the show. Oh,
cool.
So you drive the truck. I'm my own boss. You get off the train every day.
he's like an intense close up,
Yeah.
really, for this guy.
Oh.
That guy looking over there, like, oh, the Danny
Oh
Thomas
my God.
Show. Post cereals.
I'll be up.
What is he in your house? Like,
He's in the back room.
yeah,
He's in the room Eugene later takes.
he's sitting staring at the wall.
Did you love his evening attire here?
I don't know what you do for anybody. He literally said.
Hundreds of dollars only meant to do for more unhappy. I understand this is frustrating for you. This has nothing to do with me. It's her. You took a woman in a bad case.
Actually, it kind of does have everything to do with you, but
Leave her alone. All I can say is that it's a process, and time is part of it. If you'd like to expedite things, we can put her in psychoanalysis. What do you do now? Psychoanalytic psychotherapy. Psychoanalysis will mean a minimum of 3 sessions, an optimal 5.
That's a lot.
was that more money, basically.
Yeah. He's like, no. Pete's like, let me get to the notes. Just stand up there and say whatever. So this is our first Peggy speech of sorts, or pitch, you should say.
Her farewell speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really.
Come on, just give it to one of the girls. I really want.
Women lose weight so they'll feel good about themselves. Healthier, more attractive. Rejuvenate has a Latin root which literally means the return of youth. The rejuvenate
Checking off the Don Draper, like, oh, Latin or Greek for this
Yeah.
is that.
it certainly has a young girl. Isn't it nice to feel that way whenever you want? Combined with a sense of desire, be rejuvenated. You'll love the way it makes you.
B minus.
Not too bad,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can't wait to see how Don lands on this. I think it's good. Nice end run around the weight loss. I think it's good too. But what does it do? From what I understand, it provides the pleasure of man. You've been replaced? That's why Mitch's wife didn't want to take it off. Oh, I'd love to see her in that.
Oh, haha, I'm not gay. Sal.
July at Bingham Hotel with a knot at the bottom. Who's falling out of this?
Anyways.
Mitch's wife is very attractive.
Oh, I don't know.
First of all,
I was like, it's okay. She's attractive, though. It's like, what does that have to do with anything?
still might need to give us a hint.
I could be more explicit. I was thinking of calling it steamy.
I think we need like a code word. Like, I don't know. Like refreshing.
I think about that.
Oh my god. Peggy, doesn't your wife have one? What's your point, man? My point is, did she say she loved it? That's funny. Freddie?
He's just laughing in the middle of it.
Wasn't so bad. It's such a weird line.
Yeah.
delivery.
Wasn't so bad. Was that bad?
And I love too.
That wasn't so bad.
Peggy kind of. Peggy kind of muscled her way into, hey, I want this to be basically my account or my project in a pretty subtle way, I think, and she's rightly been patted on the back for that.
Yeah.
Do we have a winner in our midst? Or is Is this washing machine going to be the winner?
I think it's got to be the winner. I mean, it's a character.
Yeah. What does our mom always say about Stevie Nicks? That she sounds
like she's sitting on top of a washing machine when she sings. Age of 17.
Please don't copyright us. Wow. The fantasy.
The music.
Yeah.
She is Italian. She does speak Italian. I would say she is Italian.
She is Italian. Hofstadt, not the most, Italian
Dutch or something.
Yeah. Well, I just always feel like if somebody who's white's talking about their ethnicity or background or whatever, and you don't know what it is, it's Dutch. I don't know. Like that's just a, So you're so very, very sad.
Yeah,
So,
looking like daggone.
No, it's like my people are Nordic. When she, in season 2 when she says that, and the horse subplot.
That guy looks a lot like Ken Jennings.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
Where he's gonna lose every episode he's in, probably. So we'll give him at least one ceremonial loss.
Yeah.
Well, ceremonial loss. We won't give him all of. Like you can't even lose every episode you're in. Like
we'll get there eventually, but that's like the season 2 Twin Peaks, like James stuff.
Right,
It's just like, oh my gosh. But then you grow to love it for how dumb it is. Like
I don't feel that quite so much with this version of that.
Yeah, I agree.
But
this is going to be a whole recurring thing between these two about when she gets this job title or this much money. Like it's this constant negotiation. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Enough of this is basically what he's doing.
So I know she will one day inherit my artwork in my office, but
in my life force.
What a weasel! He's always like watching,
like he was sitting. How would he even see that through the window?
Yeah, he probably got like a spyglass. He's like watching. He's like watching from his desk at. Can you imagine being his secretary? Like how exhausting that would be.
Especially when you're a woman that's that beautiful and you have to put up with that crap.
Yeah.
Like, let him go home to convalesce. Yeah, one of my favorite terms is the convalescent home.
Yeah. Is this where the convalescent happens?
That's the way it works. Roger knows that. I'm not having anything to the
No, we know it's Sterling Cooper. His name's on the door. Like,
of course, you will have no more contact with Roger Sterling. Don't post any curse words on my timeline, please. No contract.
I need to bring that energy back to social media.
Beware the non-conformist.
That.
Yeah. Like, he's like, okay, you into me? Like, I'm gonna leave you in my office.
Yeah, what? Like, and then he goes and stands over there, messes with the baseball. Wonder who signed that. And then he comes in there.
No. So when's he coming back?
Oh, is that Roger's office?
I guess
That's
it
Roger's
is.
office.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah. It's also a great scene about how Roger and Don see each other as competition, and then Don and Pete see each other as competition. And then later on, they'll do the Pete and Roger version of that.
I love, by the way, that he's like so mean to him. I mean, yeah, obviously he's but you don't want it to be that bad.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Peggy, we both had very good days. You may leave your post. I'm sorry, that's the best I can do at this point.
I have work to do.
You can have your raise. I'll talk to Miss Holloway about getting somebody on your desk. Maybe attend to your son.
Can I tell her?
I actually
rub it in
forget
her face.
that we were saying this about plot. Another whole, like I said, thing is the Peggy ascendancy.
Yeah.
The Peggy ascendancy. Beware the nonconformist.
That would be the
like,
like they do like tie-in novels to TV shows. Like
Yeah.
they do all those like Star Trek books, whatever. It's
Right.
like Mad Men, the Peggy ascendancy. That'd be
Yeah.
like one of those books. I would read all of those. We should
Yeah.
bring that back just now. Just like have them stories between episodes all across
Yeah.
the show. Basically professional fanfic, because that's what that stuff is, anyways. Well, he's strutting around like
the
he's
music,
done something.
the swank. My all-time favorite moments. He's hoping she'll sit on it. Like one of my all-time favorite moments. Walls and grommets. He's like, the cheek of it.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Should be a whole lot. Wallace and Gromit, the cheek of it. Like,
yeah.
The Artful Dodger, that'd be a good one.
Wow. The cheek of it.
Or the cheese of it.
For that show, yeah. Found some cheese. Like, wow.
I would feel awkward as hell going in somebody else's office and just putting my feet up, Like,
He's like, doesn't say anything, doesn't even confirm that he is
like Jimmy Olsen rolled out of the comic book.
Donald Draper.
Donald.
Yeah.
He's like, what could this be?
I love this moment where he walks away from it, then he walks back over
Yeah.
and gets it.
This is a great little cliffhanger
Yeah.
at this point of like, oh, he's going to find out.
Personal.
Where's the set? Burn her under.
Looks like they're like, if you look at the eye line, it actually matches up. It looks like they're like way too far over from where
Yeah.
the TV was for a second there.
No.
No, I got to go have an affair. I mean, go out for the night.
I'll eat out later.
What do you have? No, I'm the calamari.
Oh my God, Don, that's wonderful.
I'm gonna say that about like working at McDonald's after 6
I
months.
got made
like,
partner.
I got made partner.
It's like, do they even have those? Like, in my mind, they do.
Yeah, I'm Ronald's partner. I'm his go-to assistant. Everyone's favorite hamburger clown. Name a better one.
What?
Name a better hamburger clown
Then who?
than Ronald McDonald.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say.
It's supposed to break tomorrow.
Probably do smell it.
Yeah, so this is like October. We don't get a Halloween episode until season 3, the Gypsy and the Hobo, because they cover a lot of the holidays. Like there's several Christmas ones, obviously. This is a funny little ending. This is another great, not just with Peggy, but a lot of other characters in the show. Anytime something good happens, there's always a price or a cost or
Yeah.
a sense of guilt associated with whatever it was. And this is her feeling like she's too overweight or out of shape. So you already know.
The music.
So that is Indian Summer.
Not
Starring
to be
Rich
confused with
Summer.
Rich Summer.
Yeah. All right. Again, I think it's like we said. Like I think this was a really good episode, which is true of all the episodes of the show. But it is like, as fans of the show who know what's coming, we're like, all waiting to get on the other side. But I think that takes away from a lot of the stuff. But like you said, it does feel like there's a lot of chess pieces being moved on the board that's going to get us to there. So, all right, we're going to get into the awards here. Levi, why don't you run through these for us?
So first is the Lucky Strike Championship for who won the episode.
It's toasted.
Who are you going with on this one?
Peggy. But let me just say, I think, and I say this kind of ironically, kind of not, Pete is really swarming it up and like sliming it up in a way that I find very satisfying personally. Is like, this is a great, because even a lot of these scenes, he's like cutting his eyes. He's clearly like one of the most calculated member of this office in terms of just doing anything he can to get ahead, and I just enjoy that. But this is a big episode for Peggy because, like I said, she effectively takes this assignment and muscles her way into, hey, well, if you want my opinion, I want to be a copywriter, essentially, and this puts her on that path. So I think she's, to me, the big winner for this one.
I'm actually going to go Dawn on this one because I think you're mostly right, or totally right about Peggy, and that would be one I was thinking of, but Dawn just walks through this episode basically bulletproof.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get him to win one definitively before the next one because that one's kind of a questionable, like, kind of thing. And this is kind of him. This might be too big of a thing to say, but him in his final moment before his facade of himself cracks at all.
That's true because
this is the last moment when no one knows who he really is other than, like, Anna, obviously, but and his brother who's now dead.
That's very true.
But this is the one moment where he's kind of free.
Yeah. It's true.
But it's not to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, Peggy and Dawn have both won the Lucky Strike Championship. Peggy for Kyle, Dawn for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Secor Laxative Award for who lost the episode. I'm not totally sure about this one.
They do. Every commercial block on air in the land of Lincoln is clogged up with laxative buys.
I noticed that last time we both said Roger Sterling, and part of me like wants to just keep it with Roger, but let's just kind of think about this. Again, like I think in certain ways you could say, well, did Pete lose because he was kind of getting kicked around? But I think he's got some sleeves, things up his sleeves by the end of this. And like I said, I enjoyed the smarminess of him.
Yeah.
There's the AC guy, I guess you could say. I don't know. I feel like it's got to be Roger for me personally. It's just it might be too easy to seem, but I'm gonna go Roger just because he shows back up, and he's gonna. Something, he's going to get better, or they're trying, and he just falls flat, kind of on his face figuratively. So, might seem too obvious, and especially after he had lost the last episode too. But I got to go with Roger on this one.
Part of me wants to go with Bert because of
keeps
how
pushing this Randy crap, obviously.
But he's basically also kind of like bulletproof in a way of just being like, he's just kind of above everything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really say he loses, I don't think. I'm going to go Betty with this
I was thinking about her, too.
I think she really screws up this episode a lot. Not even in, like, a bad way towards her, even just, like, she just gets kicked around the whole episode, I feel like. And it's just,
it's fair.
Not good.
I thought about her, too.
So, yeah. All right, so with you, Roger Sterling, he's
racking them up.
Getting a little, racking them up here. How many did he win? There were a couple early on he did win, I think. Wait, has he won any?
He's won one from me, I think.
Oh, right there.
Right there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So far, my prediction is not coming true.
Yeah.
He's really lost
mine was Peggy, so that tracks. But, all right, Mohawk Airlines plaque for the most shocking line of dialogue, moment in the episode.
I'm sorry, am I bothering you?
What's going on?
I just got off the phone with my brother. It's the strangest thing. Apparently my father was on that plane.
What?
Anything like that?
I'm gonna have to go with the whole like relaxicizer like plot line of like them having this product that is a sexual stimulant for women. I just think is kind of funny, and just the whole like how we're gonna sell this and how it's one of those things too. Like it comes back really. I mean, I think it's played as a joke in the last scene, but thematically, like Peggy has no one to celebrate or enjoy this this experience of getting promoted with, except for the relaxicizer, you know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, but it's also deeply sad that. And so I'll just go with just the whole plot line of having that as a product that they're trying to sell on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm having kind of trouble with mine. I have a couple in mind. One of them is that the... I lost my train of thought. I just had it. The whole Roger coming back in, having another heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, I mean,
that's kind of
just
just
shocking
shocking that it would literally happen again.
Yep.
And also just Lee Garner Sr. in this episode is just kind of just a shocking presence in general. I don't know. There's
not a lot of clear, obvious ones, I don't think.
No,
in this
and
one
part
as
of me
much.
also wants to say, and this is what I think I'm going to go with, and maybe this is too specific or vague, but the underlings, I'm going to say the underlings praying for death. Basically, that they're all like sitting around talking about like, hey, he might die.
Right, and they're all like clearly positioning themselves to be, well, if he dies, who's getting promoted?
Right.
And Pete was most in that prime position to do that. And he's acting like he doesn't care, but of course he does more than any of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get what you mean by that.
All right, so you had Mohawk Airlines plaque was the Rejuvenator storyline is what I called that, and I said the underlings praying for death.
Oh, right, because Rejuvenator is what?
Right, well, there's like 5 or 6 different names, and then they never go with any of them. Right. Okay, so Patchy Palm for best cultural reference of the episode.
This is Patchy.
Having a little trouble with this one, but...
Yeah, I'm going to go with the mention of the Danny Thomas show because I was watching the...
That was your first one, so...
I forgot that.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah, because as I was watching, I was like, I'm not really seeing a lot of stuff coming up here. But just like... Also, it delights me that these are, obviously, all this is taking place in 1960, which is right when all those Twilight Zone episodes were airing that we watched on the Blu-ray, that it would have been promoting.
Wanted, Dead or Alive, or Danny Thomas.
So, I don't feel like there's a lot to choose from in this one.
Yeah,
so.
there isn't. I mean...
There's the Rand reference yet again.
We already had that,
So, anyways...
we already had Rand.
We already
Danny
had...
Thomas, though, we'll do that.
We already had our Rand reference.
Well, Danny Thomas, he had the... I mean, he created St. Jude's Children's Hospital, didn't he? Was he the guy?
It might have been him.
So he always deserves some mention because I know he was a big philanthropist. Let's see. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
he
good
founded
for
it in
him.
Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah, because I always knew he was a like a big philanthropist.
Yeah.
Other names: Amos Jacobs, Carews, Amos Jacobs Eggs.
Would you see his full name? Like Amos Mozart, Jacob.
It says he's from Deerfield, Michigan, but he was to Maronite Catholic immigrants. Where is
parents
that?
were Maronite Catholic from what is now Besaara, Lebanon.
Oh, so okay, he's Lebanese. Okay, that makes sense.
Seemed like a big deal that somebody who was of that background was like a celebrity.
Well, Danny Thomas,
back then.
I guess, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's not a lot to choose from here, so I'm just gonna.
Mine's
going to
be about, I'm gonna say burn hole in eyes, about the being near the TV.
Oh, yeah.
I always love hearing that. It's always just so funny.
Something that obviously a lot of boomer children of the era like heard that from their parents in particular. So that's a good one.
Yeah, but yeah. So Danny Thomas show and burn a hole in the eyes. That was the '60s right there.
They want you to think it's all about the hippies and Woodstock and Vietnam.
That was only the last half.
Yeah, the whole first half, it was all about sitting down for your Danny Thomas and burning your eyeballs out. That's what it was.
Eating fish sticks.
Yeah.
And hearing your dad throw stuff against the wall in the next room and curse at the box score of the latest football game.
And doing like Mommy did and getting off to the washing machine.
And your uncle comes by and he's sniffing too much, like, you know. He was a beat.
That's the 60s.
He was a rough rider.
Nelson was a rough rider. The MSM don't want you to know about. But anyways, so...
Don't you think it's so funny you get to the very end of that show and then you've got Nelson was a rough rider? It's like, okay. This is like the second to last episode of the show. Like,
Well, that was that Memorial Day.
Oh no,
episode,
that's
or
when
like
that was.
Veterans
Okay, I'm
Day or
sorry,
whatever,
that wasn't at the. I get those mixed up because that's all about veterans too. Yeah, because dang, he would have been old then. Though. Yeah, even in the early '60s. Yeah,
because he would have served like almost 70 years before that. So he would have been like, he's probably freaking 10-year-old. They just threw on a boat.
Yeah,
like, all right, go fight
a
the
Rough
Spanish.
Rider. Yeah. He probably told people that.
And he's like, and he like shook Teddy. He only shook Teddy Roosevelt's hand once. Okay,
he only shook
like,
it 5 times.
Yeah. All right, so the next one, the big one, one of the big ones, Nixon versus Kennedy.
That's when I went over because I did have my tab open for the Mad Men thing, and I looked and it's Danny Thomas. You're like the big one, Danny Thomas.
So who do you think's gonna win, Levi?
Who's gonna win?
Yeah, in the 1960 election, Nixon versus Kennedy.
I think Nixon's got a good shot.
Yeah,
was a very close vote.
I wonder if there's like loyalists in the Nixon library. They're like they're mad that fictionally Don Draper's ad agency didn't get it done for Tricky Dick, so they're taking it out on him by like, oh, he's all about the flash and the cool or whatever, you know, like. I don't know.
Okay, even though he's a Nixon man.
I'm just again,
yeah.
I'm just trying to figure it out. You know,
you're just saying
I'm
what
just
everybody's
asking
thinking.
questions.
Yeah.
Like, sorry. Nixon versus Kennedy. What's some enduring things you remember about this one as we go into it?
You know what I think of every time I think of this episode?
What?
I think of 2 things. Number 1, and I think about the whole episode. The whole episode's great, and it has a lot going on. Is it a longer episode?
I think it's about the same.
Because it feels like a lot happens.
Let's see.
In my memory.
According to IMDb, it's 46 minutes.
Oh,
so that's
okay.
the same amount of time.
Well, that feels so much longer than that. So much stuff happens.
I think too, it's probably coasting off a lot of things we already know to propel it to like, you know.
But that Don, I think of 2 things: Don and Pete facing off with the TV in the there, and then Don when he drops the lighter and blows up.
Yeah,
the real Don Draper. He's like. Yes, and then and then it's just like real bad 2007 like CGI explosion. He's like, falls down.
I remember that.
That's what I think of.
I forgot this next episode was the introduction of one Duck Phillips.
I knew he was somewhere towards the end here, but I wasn't sure. I mean, I know that we've said a lot about this episode, but this is a big one, I think, for a lot of reasons. And I feel like it's, like I said, I feel like this is the only season that is really a typical TV show about like, hey, this is a plot thing. And it's weird because this season starts out, you feel like it's other shows, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of about stuff, but it's also like, it's kind of letting things happen. The show becomes even more of that, but then the show, very suddenly, at this point of it, is like, oh wait, crap, he might get arrested.
Yeah, right.
Like that's like almost the thing of like a murder gonna happen.
I feel like too, another thing to mention about this is one of the first episodes where a major historical event is happening and the characters are actively reacting to it and or watching it on television, which is obviously was how people consumed news primarily in the 1960s. So it's like one of those big, and I think like part of the irony is of an audience watching it even in 2007 is we're all like, well, we know who's going to win. Yeah. But the tensions within it are not about that result, but instead of about these other things, particularly with Don's identity and, you know, all that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just a big episode in a lot of ways, and it's very memorable. I mean, I think the whole scene with them two and Bert is like one of the most iconic scenes in the show. Everybody still talks about. I mean, the literally the kids down the street are raving about it right now. But yeah, and then the wheel is kind of this weird like summation episode. It's an interesting. That one's an even more interesting episode as far as like what it actually is saying about this whole season, and you know. Awesome. Well,
obviously, like one of the most iconic Don pitches ever. The thing that most people who probably haven't even seen the show have seen that scene in some.
And
capacity.
Harry walking out crying. We have a screen cap of that moment. Of him like in the glare of
the shadow
of the shadow.
Yeah.
Because that's after he's like, "Oh, I cheated on my wife." No, you know that's a whole little subplot here at the end of the first season. It's like nobody really cares about that. Like.
They're just surprised any woman would want to be with you, period. You know?
There was a lot of alcohol.
Right, it's true.
That green alcohol, that's another thing I think of. That, like, NyQuil-looking colored green alcohol.
Yeah.
It's like daggum Dr. Seuss Day all over again, you know. But, yeah, this is a big one.
almost done with season 1.
Yeah.
We're getting there. We're sorry again for the absence we'd had for a while. Been really busy, but we're very happy to be back. So, hopefully you're enjoying as much as we are. This is Kyle.
This is Levi.
Take care. God bless.
Go and review Bomb, the Nixon library.
We need to get a movement started, just like to hold them accountable. Like, and I say that as a fan of.
We say that as him being a farmer, a movement.
Yeah. Take care.
Anyway,
God bless.
This was how your day started. Started wrong.
Barbara! Barbara, get up. You'll be late for school.
Does she have to do this every morning, Barbara? Even if you're not really well-mannered, you could make a habit of being civil. Helen has trained herself to know what she's going to do, and she's able to match the right skirt with the right sweater. As usual, all your neighbors knew how late it was when you went by at your regular dog trot. Helen has a habit plan, and it includes a healthy breakfast and a pleasant word with her parents. And you're almost always late, and you're guilty about it. You're in a rut with a bad habit, distaste for your sloppy ways. You were embarrassed by your messy hair and the fingernails you had neglected to clean. You weren't listening.
But we always go to the beach. Every year we take a cottage at S.
You couldn't help interrupting, could you? You added nothing to that conversation. It's a little late for tears, isn't it, Barbara? Even though you didn't know it was going to happen today, you've still had your whole life to prepare for it. And now it's a little late, isn't it?
And that concludes our broadcast day.
You best be sleeping.